Hello, everybody. Welcome to my live stream. Today, I have half an hour. I would like to give you an update on what I did with SwiftMCP over the last few days. So there's been a lot of changes that I did on the back. We're getting very, very close to a 1.0 release of it. And I just want to show you around what's the current state of affairs and a few interesting things I'm doing with it. So let's get right to it. Uh, as usual, I'm on YouTube, on X, and on Twitch in parallel. If you have any questions, um, find any of those chats and you can put them in, and I'll be trying to answer all questions that there might be. So then one more check. Okay, everything is fine. It's online. So um, here we go. So uh, the latest changes that I made on SwiftMCP. Well, actually, let me quickly give an overview of what MCP actually is for the viewers who are with me the first time. MCP is short for Model Context Protocol, which is something that was invented by Anthropic, which is one of the big AI companies. And it's a way for an AI to have a standardized way to connect with certain tools. Um, and the tool, the process generally is such that uh, the you would ask a question from your LLM, and the LLM would say, well, uh, to answer this question, I would need to know, say, for example, what are my latest emails? So there might be a tool that allows the LLM to get access to your latest emails, and then you can say, what are my latest emails? The tool would get them, and uh, based on what it's getting back, would tell you what it's about. And this is what I'm going to demonstrate here. And Swift MCP is a way for us Swift developers on Apple platforms uh, to quickly and painlessly uh, provide MCP services. Yeah. So to give a overview about how this looks like from the point of view of a developer, you can look in Swift MCP. There's the demo, and I've got a small service. It's a calculator, I call it, and that has a couple of functions. And one function might be to get the current date and time, or another might be to do something like adding two numbers. And what's special about Swift MCP is that you just add a so-called decorator MCP tool to these functions, and that's all it takes to represent them as MCP tools to the LLM. Yeah. So what happens behind the scenes is, if you let me stop this server here. If you run this server, you get these functions exposed uh, to an MCP client. Yeah. And this sees all these functions as tools here. And I can this is a testing tool from Anthropic, the MCP inspector. And for example, the function get current date time, I can just call, and my program, so the whole thing went to my server, which is running here in the debugger, and the answer in the code especially returns a date. Yeah. And that's what you get back here. And with this information, the LLM could now, for example, know exactly what time it is. Or you could say, I want to know how to properly format this. Yeah. So instead of this time in this internet format, it can format it as a proper human readable date and time. Yeah. And there are a couple of other functions. But the point really is here. So what happened over the past few days is that I made great strides of implementing all kinds of special things. Yeah, so not just dates. Yeah, and the point here really is you as a developer, you you just have date as an input, even though uh, behind the scenes there is no date, there is just a text that's being sent, a string. Yeah, I take care of detecting it as a date and making a data type out of it. Yeah, and that works for strings, for dates. It works for uh, structs. Yeah, if you have a struct, um, I will show you in a second. So this is essentially what the uh, project looks like at the moment, and uh, I what I wanted to do is actually try it out in a concrete use case. Yeah, so it's one thing to develop this API and uh, to let me go full speaker. It's one thing to develop this API and think, okay, how should it be? But the other thing is if you actually use this API in a concrete project, you find out all these kinds of things that don't work so well. Yeah, and that's what I did over the last few days, because what I uh, started working on is essentially this app. Um, this is an MCP server that exposes certain things that I have on my Mac in the Apple world via MCP tools to an LLM. Yeah. So one example, what I have is I have my Gmails here, and if I run the server, okay, I have the port blocked because it's running still here, so I need to stop this. But now I can start it on 8080, and if I reconnect, actually clear and then tools. No, need to go here, connect, tools, list. So you see there are many other tools now available, and these are not just sample tools, but actually really things that something can be done with. And one for example, is to list my mailboxes on my Gmail server. So I can run the tool list, and I get name, drafts, inbox, special use inbox, and so on and so forth. And here are quite a few. And so what I have implemented so far is I've if, one thing is to send myself a local notification. Another part is to deal with email. So I can list mailboxes, I can retrieve mailbox messages, I can retrieve specifically unread messages. And then there's a couple of things to do with the calendar. I can list the calendars, fetch calendar events, create events, modify them, remove them, and also deal with reminders. So the other word for reminders is tasks. So I can list the list of reminders. I can fetch them. I can create them. And how this looks like from the point of view of the app developer. So where I was working on was actually, so I've got this API server class, which has the individual functions. And then I have my API server decorator for the whole class that gives it the name and exposes it as a group. Yeah. And what I did not mention so far, but I like very much on this way of exposing tools is that you have the documentation comments, and those provide the information that gets seen by the LLM. Like for example, here the send notification. Yeah, uh, this has sends a notification with the specified title and body, and that comes from here. Yeah, so I don't have to set up any additional meta information. I just put in documentation as its standard practice, and even for the individual parameters. And if you say send notification here, for example, it the title of the notification, yeah, this is coming from here. Yeah? So you just set it up in your code once, add the decorator, and this function is available via MCP. Yeah? And one thing that I needed, for example, there were the two main things that are sort of new over the last few days. One thing is support for enums. Yeah, there are certain enums, like for example here. Yeah, this notification action. Uh, it's an enum where you can specify two values, but you don't specify a value that's a text or a value that's a number, but you have a so-called enum. And the only requirement is that it's case iterable, because if it's case iterable, I can get the name of this label. Yeah, and this is what you actually send. Yeah, so this is something here you would say no action. Yeah, uh, so far this inspector doesn't support enums, so you still have to enter it as a text, but the next version will have basically then a list of the enum values to select from. And the point is, it gets sent by the client as string, but internally, so transparent to the developer, I am transforming that into the enum. So that becomes actually this no action, and that you can work with in your code. And the other big thing is support for returning structs. Yeah, like in this case, I have a struct mail message. It just needs to be codable. Yeah, and I can send this struct back to the client, and it gets nicely formatted JSON. And the other thing, I also have support for structs coming in. Do I see that somewhere? Yeah, here. For example, here's create event with recurrence rule, and recurrence rule is a rather complex struct. Yeah, it just needs to be codable, and it needs to be a struct. Yeah, because structs are sendable, and I take care of it. Comes in as a JSON dictionary, and I make, in this case, an optional array of recurrence rules out of it. Yeah. So that's very, very handy and very practical. And so let me, that's essentially the state of things. I have to give a brief shout out in this at this point for the IMCP project by NS Hipster. Uh, I'm thankful for his open sourcing of IMCP, which has also a couple of services, and that gave me quite a quick start on how do I talk to the calendar and how do I talk to the contacts in this demo app that I'm doing here. I called it API.me because it's sort of the API for my things. And just to show you how other developers are doing it, yeah, he uh, for the tools, he has to specify a name, a description, and an input schema. And in SwiftMCP, all of this is generated for you. Yeah. So here, for example, search contacts, or let's look at a similar function. Yeah. Here's the store. It doesn't have, for example, here's create event. Yeah. It's a lot of writing here. This is all the JSON schema. And my implementation is essentially doing behind the scenes the same thing. Yeah. Create event, but it has the meta information from the documentation. Yeah. And it gets generated automatically and also takes care of transforming, say, for example, dates to strings and back and forth and enums and dicts. So I like this much better. But thank you for NS Hipster for showing me how to deal with the calendar. And now let me actually show you what this means in practice. Yeah, Swift MCP. If you have a couple of functions, what can you do with it? Yeah. So I have this MCP server running, and the one app that I use a lot to talk to MCP is Cursor, but I could also use any other MCP client for that. I just find Cursor is quite nice to do to deal with in that case. Yeah, so let's do a little bit of testing of Cursor. So for one thing, let's see if today actually as I turn off the do not disturb, because that might help. So send me a notification would be something that I could say to an LLM, and because it's got the MCP server set up, it sees all the tools. Yeah, it's green, it's connected. It can call the MCP tool, and it passes title and body. Yeah, and for some reason, when I'm recording the screen, it doesn't show the notification, but you can believe me, the notification is somewhere here. 15 more. I don't see it at the moment. Yeah, it was definitely delivered, but for some reason it doesn't appear. So that was the first tool I had, but let's look at something else. For example, what are my latest emails? Yeah, since we have this retrieve messages, or rather, first it can do list mailboxes. Yeah, so it gets all these mailboxes, and you see this is all JSON, yeah, and JSON array, and now it can do retrieve messages for the inbox, yeah, to get the latest 10 emails. And it takes a while because for every email it has to get first the head and then the body. And let's see. It's the, yeah, okay, here it is. So I have a couple of notification emails and stuff in my messages, email messages. So what it can do is give me a summary of this. And I plan to do things like, for example, say, okay, all of the newsletters that I get, just put them in the trash, and then would go and move them all into the trash. Yeah. And you see, this is basically my AI that I'm talking to, and the AI has access to these tools, and with the help of these tools, it can do meaningful actions in the real world. Yeah. And well, this is about the emails. Let's do something else. Let's look at reminders. Yeah, I could say, what incomplete tasks do I have? Yeah. Reminder and task is the same thing. Apple calls it reminder. The whole rest of the world calls it tasks. So it can do fetch reminders, and you see there's quite a few, well, a few that come back, and you see here are my with no due date, some that have a due date, some have a due date in the future or in the past. Yeah, so that's the thing about listing. Yeah, what lists of reminders do I have to ask? Because there's the function list reminder lists. Yeah, it's a list of lists. So it calls the list reminder lists, and it says I have 5 lists. Yeah, and for comparison, if I look at my reminders, yeah, these are my the lists that he's talking about. Yeah, Erinnerungen, Hauswork to buy, Hobby. Yeah, and so now that I know what lists there are, I can also do things. Add a reminder for next week to try out the dryer for my snap maker. Yeah. I've these things in the garage that I should try out, but I always forget about it. So And by the way, if I don't give it user context, yeah, the LLM doesn't actually even know the date, the current date. Yeah, so I've got this function user context that tells it the current time zone, the current date, and what my current language is. And with this help, it's actually able to know what do I mean by for next week. So it created a number of the following details. Let's see if that actually appeared. Yeah, so here on my, where did it put it? List hobby. List hobby. Haha, and there it is. Test dryer functionality for the SnapMaker. It even did me an alarm, yeah, and at a weird time at 0, yeah, because I didn't specify a time. And yeah, it's all here. And I have to admit, so far, I haven't actually used reminders at all because it's a bit tedious always putting it on the reminders and then completing it again. And with the latest iOS version, I actually saw that if you look at your phone on the calendar, if you have a reminder for a certain time, it actually shows them now inside your calendar. And with that, actually, it becomes more useful because if you look at your day, you see, aha, this is where I'll be, and this is things that I need to do at certain times. And one thing that I noticed when playing with this is if you can just naturally say things like remind me of this and in what context I want to remind it about. Or for example, I have got this list shared with my family called family groceries. Yeah. So I could say, put some milk on the grocery list. Yeah. Doesn't matter that I even misspelled some, but he knows I'll add milk to your family groceries lists. He calls it with milk on the family groceries, notes, add to shopping cart. Yeah? And family groceries has now a task, add to shopping cart. Um, and so this is for reminders. And again, it's, well, I do have a function to create a reminder, function to modify a reminder. So what I could do is on the reminder that you just put on hobby, set the alarm time to, let's say, 1 p.m. Yeah. So it knows, okay, I just put the SnapMaker dryer reminder to have an alarm at 1. So it modifies reminder, give it the identifier uh, of the reminder and a new due date, yeah, and alarm 0 minutes before this due date. And so let's check if it did that. Hobby, yeah, now it's got 1 p.m. So 1 o'clock in the afternoon as the new due date for this reminder. And what you can do is, well, I'll show you in a second. So that's about reminders. Yeah, the other thing is, so what's on my calendar for next week? So it has to understand what do I mean by next week. Yeah, and next week obviously means, okay, no parameters, so it just checks everything that it gets back, and then it looks at, okay, March 31st, April 7th. So this is all I have on my calendar. Yeah, and what you can do, for example, to show the examples. So I've got this situation that family. Uh, I've got interesting day. Uh, Today, here it is. So I've got, for when my children are in school, I've got these events, yeah, and I always have to pick up my daughter, yeah. And what I can do is, for example, for next week, uh, for every time Elise is at school, set me a reminder to pick her up 15 minutes before the end of classes. Yeah. So this allows me basically to do many things in one go. Yeah. So it knows, okay, these are the times when she goes to school, or rather when school is over. Yeah. And it can now create a reminder. What did it try to do? List name family. There's no list name family. The list name is called Erinnerungen. So it created, it always schools end at so on, and alarm 50, this is how many seconds? So 15 minutes before 11:30. So it's the first reminder created, second reminder created, third reminder. So this is a very fast way to do a lot of scheduling, yeah, and even connecting things from reminders and calendars, yeah. And now let's see how this looks in the calendar, yeah. The first one was on April the 1st, yeah. So that's odd. It it has a weird 10:30. I have to check what's going on there. It's got a wrong time zone. But the idea is essentially that in this case, pick up Elise from school. It's at the wrong time. Yeah, it should be much earlier. So that's something for me to investigate. But you get the picture. So the idea is that if an LLM is able to act on multiple data sources, yeah, it can also connect them and reason and do many different things in one go for you. Yeah. So I'm wrapping up essentially. So I'm very close to actually calling it version 1.0 of SwiftMCP. As I said, most of the things that I wanted to implement when it comes to uh, the remote calling of functions is in there. We have standard I/O support, we have HTTP SSE support, and uh, it's now the point that it needs to be used in real life apps and real life scenarios to find out what can be improved. So one thing that I've been thinking of is in uh, this app I'm working here, I have one central server, yeah, that I called API. No, actually here. Full screen again. In here, I have one API server, but it's always just handing it off to the handler for calendar and for reminder and so on. So there would be one. It would be nice if you could aggregate it so that I have multiple servers that are served by the same transport. So these are small things that I plan to improve. So I hope you like it. I hope you give it a try and implement some MCP services as well. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. And apart from that, thank you. See you. Uh, see you next time. See you soon. That's the end of it. Goodbye.